Good day here at Brookings Radio. We welcome Brookings School Superintendent Summer Schultz. Dr. Schultz, good to see you once again.
Good to see you.
As we prepare for possible bit of winter next week, we'll see.
You know, you just can't ever be sure that it's over, can you, in South Dakota?
I think someone at the school board meeting this week mentioned that there'd been only one school day.
They did, and
only one snow day.
I knew that was it. I don't remember which one it was, but we're going to blame them.
I think it was Kelly Books, but I'm not sure.
That a girl, Kelly.
We'll see. Hopefully we don't have snow days next week, but we do desperately need the moisture. So.
We do. I saw just, that drought precipitation level. It's just, oh man, we need it.
Good.
So,
all right, let's talk about some stuff. The legislative session has ended, and foremost for schools, 4% increase is good news.
It is good news. It is. And, the governor had suggested that in her budget address in December. And so that number has stayed pretty steady. And it's nice to see that it stayed.
What will that mean for the Brookings district? I mean, does it make a big difference?
We look at a lot of things, and obviously that inflation rates for different things are always changing at different times. And so 4% is above, I believe, what they would have to do based on statute. And so we are always so appreciative of that, along with there were some additional monies that were given to schools in the form of literacy support and resources aligned to the science of reading. And I'm very excited for that. That is one of the things that I talked with the staff about during our State of the District address last week. And so that additional support is just so necessary when we're trying to align and make sure we're having that priority on literacy instruction.
And it's going kind of a return to phonics, as I understand.
Yeah, and really it's a matter of bringing in the things we know, including that phonics piece, but also just that alignment of all of it. And I share all the time that I was a reading teacher that didn't know it necessarily. I knew something wasn't right, and it's been the last few years coming that I've talked with moms and dads and that have students who aren't getting it, so to say. And it always bothered me that they were having to pay for tutors and things outside of the time their children were in my school district. And so this isn't a new thing because I've came to Brookings. This is something that has just been building in me and something I've just been prioritizing. And now we have the information in front of us, and we have a state giving us the resources. And so that non-negotiable at Brookings, when I'm the superintendent and I've had good support, is that we need to know it. We need to know every student deserves a teacher that has been trained on the science of reading. But in the same sense, every teacher deserves to be trained on it. And so I have to do my job of not just expecting it, but providing that to our teachers at all levels too.
I've always considered reading both important and a gift. And glad that I learned it early, probably even maybe before I should have. I don't know, because I had sisters who taught me to read well before school started.
Yes, and speaking of that is one of the things as the community will start hearing more about our plans for the preschool program that will be coming in the fall.
Nice segue.
But I tell you what, that piece of preparing students, we aren't necessarily teaching technical reading in preschool,
right,
but we will be preparing them to be technical readers when they enter our kindergarten classes. And so that will be one thing that is just going to set these preschool rooms apart, is that intentional literacy focus at that age level. And to me, that is just so exciting.
Kind of related to the 4% increase as well is new teacher accountability law. Last time we talked, Brookings should be fine. That still is the case, I would imagine. It was changed, but not really significant.
Right. Well, there's a few sections to the accountability, and one is just ensuring you have the minimum target salary, we call the base salary, and that's $45,000, and Brookings' base salary is $50,000. So we are well above that. That issue is not hard. Where we have to start being strategic and making sure we're looking years out is that average teacher compensation always has to raise now by the increase that's provided to us from the state. So
4%.
4%, and then 97% of what that 4% would be. But keeping in mind that those schools that were aggressive with their compensation, they're starting where they, that benchmark of where they're at. So we have to, again, be strategically thinking about how we staff and that we can keep that accountability for the package moving forward, knowing we build on it from one year to the next. So we're just going to be real careful and make sure that, we're strategic and looking ahead.
So that even if you're well ahead of the average teacher pay in the state, you got to keep going with it.
Exactly. You're looking at moving forward from that starting point of where you're at, not at that starting base pay.
Yeah. Was there anything out of this session that concerns you? I know the library policy was at some point maybe concerning.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we knew there would be conversation surrounding library policies and books, and I just think that a lot of that is generated from some well-intentioned, people that just aren't sure what should be. And so I think we expected that. Again, the funding for the literacy instruction and resources and training across the state, that was huge. But I felt that this was a session where not everything went the way you would want necessarily in K-12 education, but we're starting to see that respect and that level of commitment to our public education systems back in the legislative body, and that was really great to see.
Absolutely. Locally, school construction continues, and that has made for a modification of the end of school date at Hillcrest and Madera.
It does.
By a couple days.
We are just going to be sending this out to parents that it is a tight turnaround to get the buildings emptied and demo the current buildings in order to have a fall on-time opening. So students that are in the Hillcrest and Madera schools will be released for summer break on May 15th. So on that Wednesday in May, that will be their last day. And that allows the staff in those buildings to be able to prepare for the complete move out and the demolition while we have them under their contract time. And it's just, it's something we have to do to keep the project on time.
Because if you imagine school ends, you got to move everything out of the schools that you want.
Yeah.
That's some task.
It is a task. And we will be doing an online auction. We just met with Tyler and Nolan yesterday. And so we had intended to have the pickup right there at Hillcrest and Madera, but we're going to have a different alternate location. So that online auction information and equipment list will be coming out in April, early May at some time.
And so if you win at the auction, you can pick it up. There'll be some place other than the two schools.
The bus barn, the Fifth Street Gym, somewhere like that, so we don't slow down that process even more.
Yeah, it's good you have alternate places, and I can see why that totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. Any idea on how long the demolition will take once they get started?
Man, we just talked about this at our last construction meeting, and you would be surprised that
and
it's
you have to be careful because the building's pretty close, the new to the old.
Right. I don't want to give you a time, but it's a much shorter period than I expected.
And they don't have a huge window anyway before school starts
I almost
again.
have in my head about a 2-week, 10 to 14-day time period but it's much shorter than I anticipated, and I've done this once before, and it's just crazy to see those buildings come down in the history, and it's kind of bittersweet, that's for sure.
It always is, especially for those who have attended those schools. But boy, is it going to be a different look.
It is.
At those two schools.
These buildings are beautiful.
Yeah,
they're just absolutely beautiful.
Which is great. One thing before we finish, we need to talk a little bit about the ESSER funding and the impact on the next school budget, because that emergency pandemic aid is ending, and for Brookings, it was about $6 million over the 3 years, something like that?
Yeah, it was significant.
Yeah.
When you look at our current fiscal year budget, about $1.4 million of our ESSER funds went to staff. And what I've been saying is that when school districts did it right and they brought in staff that really made a difference for kids and staff, it's hard to give those up. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Brookings. And so that's a testament to the board and the administration that put those things into place long before I came, that they put in and they used that money in a way that supported kids the way it was intended, which makes it hard to say goodbye to.
And that's what it was for. After the pandemic,
absolutely.
Kids were lagging behind, needed support.
Yeah. And so, it's it's making our current budget seem worse, and I shared that with staff, that we do have a little bit that we have to just cut from our general fund and anyway, but when you put that on top of the ESSER, it just seems so much worse, but I've shared with a lot of people that ESSER has allowed us to have some extra things, and this is a little bit more normal, honestly, than the last 3 years of staffing was. And it doesn't make it easier. It just is a little bit more of what we're accustomed to.
Well, any positions stayed that were new because of the ESSER funds?
Yeah, we are currently in that process of making some decisions of what, there were some, I'll say our school social worker, that piece has just become so important to our connection to the community for families with those resources. And that is one that we are looking, that we know we really need to keep. And then some of them were, they kind of coexisted between ESSER and normal. And so they were already going to stay. And so, again, we just are looking at that overall budget, knowing we need to balance it in the next month. And so it's hard to say exactly what will stay and what will go, but it's just one of those times, and as a superintendent, you don't love.
Budget is finalized in June?
Yeah, every school does it a little different before that fall official, but I feel the way I feel very strongly that budgets and negotiations should go together, and so we're looking at both of them and how they coincide with each other this year.
Very good. We're out of time.
Oh, thank you so much,
Dr. Summer Schultz, right here at Brookings Radio. Appreciate it.